of my favorite movies, It's a Wonderful Life, by Frank Capra, which I almost didn't get a chance to watch this year, which would have been terrible, but got it in before the New Year's. And but at the beginning of the movie, the angel Clarence, when he is being informed about George Bailey's life, he asks, "Oh no, is he sick? What's wrong? Is he sick?" To which the reply is given, "No, worse. He's discouraged." Have you ever been discouraged before? I imagine if I asked everyone in here if you've ever been discouraged to raise your hand, I imagine everyone would raise their hand, maybe two. I think there always comes a point in our life when we're faced with struggles, or maybe we're just exhausted, or the pressures of life just seem to kind of culminate on one particular day, on one particular week, or we're disappointed in someone, we're disappointed in an opportunity we thought we would have, we're disappointed in a person that we thought we knew. Whatever happens, at some point we become discouraged. We maybe even struggle with depression, and we struggle with melancholy and with fear and discouragement. Let me tell you, I've been there. I understand the difficulty of sliding into the pit of discouragement and despair, and how difficult it is to come out of that. Because it seems as when you're discouraged, it doesn't matter how much you want to come out of that mood of discouragement, you just can't. And you don't like being there, and other people don't like it when you're there, because we tend to lash out at others when we are in that place and when we are in that moment. And so, and just thinking about this and my own battle with being discouraged and struggling in that way. On the flip side, because I've seen the damage that discouragement can cause, I've also seen the great power that is in encouragement and in encouraging people in the Lord. There have been individuals who have come to me, it seems, at the right moment when the Lord knew that I need a word of encouragement. And they came to me at that moment and they encouraged me. And although I could not get myself out of that pit, they helped me to come out of that. And the more and more that I'm in ministry, the more I understand the importance of encouragement for the Christian. And that is why it is so important for us to meet as often as we can as saints, to encourage each other, as Paul talks about in Hebrews 10 verse 24, towards love and towards good works. But there's a man who, in the New Testament, encouraged even the Apostle Paul. And it's in Paul's shortest epistle by the name of Philemon, a man by the name of Philemon. And when Paul is writing to him, he's writing about a difficult subject, a runaway slave of Philemon's that is now coming back but was converted while he's gone. And I just want us to take just a moment to reflect on how Philemon encourages and how we can encourage each other in the future. Notice in Philemon, verse 7, Paul writes to Philemon, he says, "For I have derived much joy and comfort from your love, my brother, because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you." Then jump down to verse 19. "I, Paul, write this with my own hand. I will repay it to say anything of you owing me even your own self. Yes, brother, I want some benefit from you in the Lord. Refresh my heart in Christ." Paul is dealing with a very difficult situation. He even mentions in a letter, he says, "I'm an old man now." And he is asking something of Philemon. But I want you to know how Philemon is described. He's described as someone who refreshes the spirits of his brothers and sisters in Christ. And Paul says, "And I want you, Philemon, to refresh my spirit as well." And what that implies is that sometimes the spirits of the brethren become stale and discouraged. And they need someone in the church to refresh their spirit. Now, you have brethren that are sitting beside you in this congregation who from time to time, and maybe even this morning is one of them, this afternoon is one of them, where they are just worn out, where they're tired, where they're discouraged, and they need someone to refresh them. Okay? And so what I want us to encourage each other to do in this coming year is to be a refresher. To be that, as we often say to someone, you are a breath of fresh air to me, right? Be that person who refreshes the spirit of someone in your life. Don't be the person that's constantly criticizing. Don't be the person that's constantly cynical and bitter and has nothing but bad things to say. Intentionally be more encouraging in the coming year. And I think that there's 3 ways that we can do that. And we even see this in Philemon himself. Number 1, we can encourage people by how we listen. By how we listen. Paul is writing to Philemon, and he wouldn't have been writing Philemon a letter unless he knew Philemon would actually listen to what he had to say. He knew that Philemon would receive the word of the Lord. He knew that Philemon had a good heart. And even though this is a very difficult situation for Philemon to deal with, Paul obviously recognizes that Philemon's going to give Paul and Onesimus in the situation the benefit of the doubt. You have no idea how encouraging it is for you just to sit down with someone, take them out to eat for lunch, take them out for coffee, and just let them talk and listen to what they have to say. Don't make a judgment. Don't try and lecture. If they ask for your advice, give it to them. But just to sit there and to listen to them, to be invested in the story of their life, to ask some questions about how's work going, how's the family, and if there's a struggle going on, ask them, well, how did this happen? How can I help? Right? And be a good listener. Anybody that knows me knows that if I'm not careful, I like to talk. That's why I became a preacher. Nobody else would hire me. But there is a certain discipline to listening to people. And in a society that constantly wants to throw their opinion out there, Christians need to learn the discipline of an open ear. The second way in which we encourage each other, on the flip side of that, is by our words, is by how we speak to each other. I can't help but think that part of the love and the comfort that Paul speaks of in verse 7 of Philemon came from things that Philemon had said to people. He had intentionally refreshed their spirits by something he said to them. It might have been just a note that he gave to them, or it might have been him coming up, putting his arm around them at worship and saying, brother, I'm glad you're here. I love you and I appreciate you. What can I do for you? Or finding something in their life, finding God moving in their life and saying, man, I really see God working through you in this way. They might not have even thought that God was using them in a certain way, but helping them to realize how God is working in them and through them for their glory. I want to encourage you and challenge you this week to find someone in your phone book that's a member of this congregation that you generally don't talk to, or maybe you don't know. I want you to first pray about them, pray for them, and then I want you to text them and tell them what you prayed about for them. That's something that I tried to start doing a couple of years ago, and people have told me it's encouraged them in the past, where just send them a random text and say, I prayed for you in this way, and this is what I prayed for. You know who did that? Well, he didn't send a text message, but he sent a message. It was Paul. He would say, this is what I prayed for you, brethren. This is what I'm hoping for, and this is how I want God to work in your life. So, by how we listen, by what we say, and thirdly, by how we live. Philemon's life was at the center of this as a refreshment and an encouragement for Paul and for the saints. How he lived his life was an encouragement to them. And how you live your life in faith and in trust in the Lord can be a great encouragement to your brothers and sisters in Christ by the works that you do for them and for others. And this is something that we have to intentionally decide as Christians. Do not allow your life and your actions to discourage other Christians. Don't let your life and the way that you live be the reason that someone does not accept Jesus Christ. Okay? I don't want to stand before the Lord and the Lord say, Jacob, this person was going to follow Jesus, but he saw how you were living, he saw what you were doing, and they decided they'd rather have no part in that. As Christians, we're called to be refreshers, to be the breath of fresh air, not only for the church, but for our communities. And we do that by how we listen, what we say, and how we live. And I encourage you to do that in this coming year. Let's stand and sing a song together at this time, and then we'll be closed in a word of prayer. Please be standing.